The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It should be illegal for Scottie Scheffler to play on the PGA Tour. This guy can't be stopped. Another victory at the BMW Championship. He has a chip on the 17th, which will go down in the history books. 82 feet, landed 60 feet short, and then rolled the rest of the way. Super exciting win again for Scheffler, who is not only the best golfer in the world, he's becoming one of the best golfers of all time.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
It doesn't matter that they're early in the game, late in the game, they're trailing, they're leading. It doesn't matter garbage time. CeeDee Lamb is the guy, and we saw that even after Dak got hurt last year and Cooper Rush was under center. Targets were going to CeeDee Lamb. And when you can get 9, 10, 12, 15 targets on a game-by-game basis, he's going to rack up fantasy points every single week. Frankly, he underperformed last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Time to rise and grind. It's the early line for a Tuesday morning edition in late August as we approach the month of September and football, and more football. But our job here each and every day, 8 to 10 a.m. on the SportsGrid Network for the early line, Donnie Wrightside and Joe Ranieri, is to get you prepared for your sporting day and also what's going to come up on the horizon. A lot of guys got paid around the NFL. We're still waiting for Micah Parsons. Major League Baseball last night. Cal Raleigh enters the 50-home run club, and away we go. And it's time to start the previews of college football for what's going to take place in week number 1. Joe Ranieri, I'm fired up. My energy is high. I'm feeling good. We're ready for the show.
Absolutely. And a lot of NFL headlines overnight too, Donnie, which make this a very interesting cut day in the NFL.
Absolutely. It is cut day in the NFL. How about that? A lot of people's hopes and dreams will be dashed. Maybe they come back to the rookie squad. And by the way, if you do get on the practice squad, Joe, it's like 13 G's a week, man. That's not bad work if you can find it here. And a lot of people will find themselves on the practice squad. But Joe is right. Cut day is here. But I tell you who's not getting cut right now. It's Terry McLaurin. You know who's getting cut here? The Washington Commanders cutting a check for a 3-year deal up to $96 million. This was one of those off-season fights, squabbles that never made any sense. Washington had the money to pay McLaurin. They just couldn't figure out a deal. Pressure burps pipes. You have a, week and a half till the NFL season is underway. $96 million in Terry's pocket. Away, the Commanders go into the regular season.
Yeah, puts them up there now, right? Pretty elite company. One of the top 6 highest paid wide receivers in the NFL. And just like that, Jaden Daniels slept really well last night, as did Washington fans. So, yeah, if you think Washington has got a shot at making a run at this and overtaking the Eagles, they needed McLaurin, and they locked him up rather easily.
Should have been done back in March and April, but again, both sides came to an agreement, probably reached across the table. You know what, I'll give a little here, you give a little there, we'll make a deal, and it makes sense here for us. And away we go into the season for a team that made the NFC Championship last year before losing to the Philadelphia Eagles. A game short of the Super Bowl. A team that's looking to get back to the Super Bowl and was a little bit short when they got there against Los Angeles. That is the Cincinnati Bengals. They came to an agreement with Trey Hendrickson, a 1-year deal with a big pay bump here. So essentially, Joe, 1 year, $30 million. We probably won't tag you. Let's get on the football field. And away the Bengals go in the regular season. Finally, get the boys in camp here.
The single most Bengals thing I have heard in a long time. You've been going down this road with this guy for how long now? And instead of locking him up, which, by the way, they did make him a pretty big offer, 3 years, $95 million. But they wouldn't guarantee any money in the second year. How they thought that was going to...
You're going to come back. We're going to play the same negotiation again. But at least he's back on the field. Maybe some better vibes there for Cincinnati to start the season. They played Joe in the preseason, and they get Hendrickson back in the fold. Good times there for the Bengals. I tell you what's not good times right now. Running back Joe Mixon of the Texans. He's going to be out for at least the first 4 games. And I do see he was moved to the non-football injury list. How did he hurt this ankle? Running around the mall, Joe?
Where's he been, right? I mean, my goodness. So they've kind of kept this thing under wraps here a little bit, but, we didn't see We didn't see him in the preseason. We knew he was hurt, but now all of a sudden we're not going to see him until after the first month of the season. Listen, they should be able to still run the ball even without Mixon. But if we're taking Houston seriously, they're going to need him to be in healthy number one and available number two this season.
No, absolutely you do. I mean, come on now. This is one of those veteran running backs that forget about the rushing, right? You like the vet backs because when you have a blitz that you need to be picked up, the vets can do that. The young running backs sometimes miss, and there goes C.J. Stroud back on his back here. You can't have that. It's one of those interesting ones where he's going to be down to at least week number 5 and never really knew the extent of the injury itself. Here's something, Joe, that absolutely had to happen, and that's the Vegas Raiders getting a backup quarterback. But more importantly, we get that log jam cleared in Cleveland so 2 young quarterbacks can make that roster now.
Well, we talked about it yesterday. I mean, off the news of the, Aiden O'Connell breaking his wrist in the 3rd preseason game for the Raiders, which is still head scratching to me, that all of a sudden somebody like Kenny Pickett very much alive and well in the discussion. So we thought maybe the Browns would just designate him like Mixon, put him on IR for 4 weeks and see how it works out. But not when you got a 5th round draft pick traded for him. I mean, my goodness, how many times has he been traded in the last year, Donnie? I'm just curious, this Pickett.
Exactly. You're supposed to be a young quarterback, maybe entering into your prime, a valuable asset. And I guess you technically are because teams keep wanting you at some point and trading for you and making moves for you here. I don't think he's going to get that much starting out for Vegas. But as Pete Carroll pointed out, you got to have somebody with experience at that number 2 spot here just in case Geno Smith goes down. They seemingly found that here in Kenny Pickett. Major League Baseball talk, the Los Angeles Dodgers. How do you get back in the first place? I don't know. Have your counterpart lose a game 9-6 like the Mariners beat the Padres last night after the Padres had a 4-1 lead. And then the Dodgers blanked the Reds 7-0. Emmett Sheehan, very, very good last night, outdueling Hunter Green.
10 strikeouts last night is what Sheehan had. Who saw that coming? I mean, he'd gotten lit up the last couple of starts there, but woo, they were mowing him down last night. Once again, that's the problem with the Reds. Which lineup shows up on a nightly basis will depend on whether or not they're competitive, and they weren't very competitive last night.
We'll see if Wilson Contreras shows up on a nightly basis after getting ejected yesterday, getting very upset from a strike call. And here's my favorite part. Sometimes you watch, Joe, Major League Baseball and across sports. When there's a bad call happening, players lose their minds sometimes. Like they're in the moment, they're competing, and if a strike 3 is a foot off the plate and they get rung up for it, they get upset. Wilson Contreras, I'm watching the replay here of him throwing the bat at his coach and flinging it back and having some words with the umpires and getting upset. That was a strike right down the middle. What was he upset about?
And what did the poor hitting coach, Brant Brown, have to do with it? Because when he threw the bat, he inadvertently hit the hitting coach. Like, what are you doing? And you're right, Donnie. It was right down the plate. It wasn't even remotely close to being a borderline pitch. So it must have just been a bad day for Contreras. That's all I can think.
It certainly was. Well, the U.S. Open is underway. For me, I probably won't watch even one volley back and forth or a serve or an ace or whatever you call it here. But we do have some victories yesterday and some upsets. Madison Keys got upset yesterday, but also how about a 45-year-old Venus Williams still playing? Did go to 3 sets, but she lost as well at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, some people calling that an upset. I'm like, upset? No, it's not an upset when you're playing people half your age in that sport. Absolutely not. Just let me know when Sinner and Alcaraz are playing for the championship. I'll tune in, Donnie.
Exactly. Well, that again, you missed out. Like when I was doing shows over the summer, I would make it a point saying, can we just have the best 4 tennis players and nobody else? Because that's all that matters. And we can waste 2 weeks here and just go down to 3 or 4 days. It would be one like a golf tournament, a major, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We love that stuff. Do the same thing in tennis here. No need for this all boring hundreds of players playing here in the Open. By the way, yesterday, Joe, the Philadelphia Phillies got beat by the Mets. That was my play of the night yesterday on the show. 3-0. They get beat 13-3. But Alec Boehm had an issue with a microphone in center field that caused a 10-minute delay. The Phillies didn't score after that. Matter of fact, 10 unanswered runs after that for the Mets. Good job, Alec Boehm.
Yeah, well, great job to the network, too. Like, how do you have a microphone issue? What do we, like, somebody figure it out, people. My goodness.
We needed 4 runs out of the Phillies. They got 3. Thanks again, Alec Boehm. We'll be back with much more, which includes hot topics in the NFL. People getting paid.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Right back here on the early line for a Tuesday morning here. A little bit of updated information. It's Donnie Rightside and Joe Ranier. We do a live show. We like to bring you stuff that is absolutely live. How about Tommy DeVito, released from the New York Giants? It's apparent here their quarterback room now is intact. Russell Wilson will be the starting quarterback. Jameis Winston, I guess, would be the number 2. And then Jackson Dart, the de facto number 3. But Tommy DeVito cut today from the New York Giants. He's going to either get back to that practice squad or somebody's picking him up, Joe.
I'm not so sure. Jameis is the number 2 in Dable's mind, but he'll play it that way. Russ is the clear 1, but don't be shocked. Again, quarterback-needy teams. Jackson Dart is the future of the Giants. Jameis Winston is not. He's expendable. Wouldn't shock me, Donnie, at all if we start hearing about the phone ringing there, and maybe Jameis, like Pickett, could be another guy up for sale.
Yeah, we'll get some interesting, names that'll be out there on the wire once this day ends. Oh, I didn't think that was going to happen, or a surprise here. Tommy DeVito's not necessarily a surprise. One of those quarterbacks had to go. It just was him. They didn't sign, I don't think, Jameis Winston to not have him on the roster. We'll see how it plays out, but I do think Tommy DeVito is an NFL quarterback. A starter? Maybe not, but he certainly deserves to be on a roster, and he'll find his way to a roster. You know who else found their way back to the roster? It was Terry McLaurin and the Commanders. They reached a 3-year deal worth up to $96 million. Scary Terry's in the building. Now the Commanders can focus on the season, maybe chase down the Philadelphia Eagles, make a deeper run in the playoffs, which means, Joe, they get to the Super Bowl here. But Terry's back in the fold. They needed that to happen, and it happened.
All right, can we all have a legit conversation here, though, for a minute on it with this? If I hear one more player tell me how I want a trade request, and then we spend 5 more minutes talking about, you know what would be a great fit if they wanted to trade him? Ultimately, for them to do exactly this. He was the first guy this year, way before Parsons, way before Henderson's. It started with him, where he was like, everything showed up at camp, everything's good. And then McLaurin, a couple days later, was like, listen, we're not moving. trade me. Here's my trade request. Then Hendrickson requested to be traded. Then Parsons requested. The only guy who has said, everyone settle down, let's not lose any sleep over this, everything's going to work out, is Jerry Jones, who we all think is a few fries short of a Happy Meal. But the reality is, how is he wrong, Donnie? How is he? You can ask for a trade request all you want. Doesn't mean you're going anywhere. It likely means you're not being traded. And that's exactly what we saw here.
Exactly. Usually when you get the trade request, it doesn't even come up. Like, you're moved. Like, you don't even have to request the trade. You just go behind the scenes. I want a trade request. In 3 hours, you're moved to another team. I always remember, like, Tyreek Hill getting traded from the Kansas City Chiefs. We had a note like, hey, looks like he might want to trade here. And like 5 minutes later, it was a done deal to the Miami Dolphins. Contract signed, sealed, delivered, and away he went to Miami. Also understand this. Myles Garrett, don't you remember? I just don't like Cleveland anymore. It's not even about the money. Yeah. Well, how about we pay you more than anybody else? Oh, love Cleveland. I don't want to get traded now. It is about the money, and I'll stay in Cleveland and win 4 games this year, but it was never about the money. I want to win. No, it's not. It's always about the money. You pay these players what they want. They'll say whatever you want them to say at this point. Next up is Trey Hendrickson. He was upset. He stayed away from camp for like 3 or 4 days. The Bengal goes, we ain't giving you a new deal. 50 grand, 50 grand, 50 grand. All right, I'll show up here, but I want a long-term deal, and I'm not getting off my sticking point, Joe, of a long-term deal. He got a 1-year deal, got a pay bump, but he didn't get his long-term deal. So apparently, Joe, he didn't stick with his emotions and say to myself, I'm never changing off of what I want. Yeah, you did. You're back in camp. You're making good money, and we'll see what happens. But Hendrickson back in the fold there for the Bengals.
I mean, this has been going on for 2 years, Donnie. He has been battling with the front office of the Bengals for a raise that kind of went along with what he was producing on the field. And then, of course, they let this thing drag out. This wasn't like an over the summer thing where Hendrickson was trying to hold their feet to the fire. For 2 years, the guy has been, 17 and a half sacks, led the league in 2024. He's got the most sacks over the last 2 years. He's been trying to get paid in a new deal. And the best they could do was, all right, we'll give you $30 million, but then you're a free agent at the end of the year. Well, all right, congratulations. Now you got to worry about another team stepping in and paying him what you should have paid him already.
Exactly. Now, understand this, Joe, because I've always said, like, the offseason, you draft the young rookie defensive edge pass rusher, and he doesn't sign right away. But he signed, like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. So he's back in the lineup. Then you take a look at Trey Hendrickson. It's like, well, you can't trade him and get a 3rd-round pick back or a 2nd-round pick. That doesn't help you this year. He's back into the fold. If we look at the odds for the AFC North to win that, Ravens at -155, the Bengals at that +260 price, then the Steelers and the Browns. Do you feel any better today about the Cincinnati Bengals than you did in the offseason? Because I do, because it could have been disastrous. And so it's like we got that car back on the road, driving down 55 miles an hour, and the radio's playing, and the vibes are good again.
Well, I got to tell you, now this is better for the Bengals because him being a free agent at the end of the year, Donnie, means he's playing for that contract this year for them. So for $30 million, yes, he's in line as one of the highest paid defensive, pass rushers in the league. But he also knows that if he falls flat on his face this year, well, what have you done for me lately? You're looking for that big next contract. He's got to show up. I think this helps the Bengals, certainly defensively, as long as Burrow and company stay healthy and that offensive line shows up. I don't know that it helps the numbers right now, but I don't think it's a bad thing for the Bengals at all.
No, it's not. And you take a look at the schedule, like opening up against the Cleveland Browns. It's on the road. You're a better team than the Browns. Now, granted, also last year, we didn't play in the preseason, talking about the Bengals. They showed up week number 1 against a bad New England team and lost to them. Now they played in the preseason, and their defense is going to be intact. Can't be any worse than last year. They should be able to beat the Browns. Then they come home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They'll be favored in that game as well. This should be a 2-0 start, which is something we're not used to seeing for the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe.
Listen, they sacrificed one of the better DCs in Lou Anarumo, who's now at Indy. So they bring in Golden, and now all of a sudden we had Hendrickson issues. But now that that's all wrapped up, I still say the Bengals are hit or miss based upon how they protect Joe Burrow. That offensive line has been one of the worst over the last 2 seasons, They got to get the offensive line right if they are going to make a run at Baltimore.
Exactly. Now, Joe Burrow does like to play with fire in the pocket. What I mean by that is he holds the football longer to make sure his wide receivers can get open. So he'll cause some of those sacks. But you're right. You take one hit at the wrong time and your season is over. You must protect Joe Burrow in that pocket. We'll see if they can do that. But their defense, hey, maybe there's some hope on the horizon. More moves around the NFL landscape coming up next right here on the early line. It's Tuesday, people. Get excited.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Here's the irony with this group. They're going all in a row, 27, 28, 29, and 30 at wide receiver. All of these guys have a huge fantasy upside. They're all being drafted as wide receiver 3s, and I think all of them are going to outperform that ADP. Calvin Ridley could end up as a low-end 1, high-end 2. George Pickens, I think, is going to end up being a solid back-end wide receiver 2 at the end of the day.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers are playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If the Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs, and right now it's 18 and 17, they're one game ahead of the loss column versus Seattle and the Spartans. If they make the playoffs, you must, and I mean must, give their coach head coach of the year in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Making moves out here. Why? Because Aiden O'Connell, your backup quarterback, went down with a broken bone. You got to get somebody with some veteran leadership that can come in behind Geno Smith if you need him. And Pete Carroll's an old school guy. You think Geno Smith pulls a hamstring or maybe gets a concussion test in week number 1 and you're going to a guy that hasn't played that much in the NFL? That ain't happening. So you know what happened yesterday? Kenny Pickett was traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Vegas Raiders to sort of add to that quarterback room and get a little bit more veteran talent just in case Geno goes down. But also the other side of the equation now, much clearer quarterback room to keep 2 young players along with Joe Flacco. That's what I saw yesterday, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear now, at least the direction that the Browns are heading with that room with Flacco at the top of the board there. And then they will try to figure it out between Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders there. But Pickett is hilarious. I mean, this is a guy that was the number 20 overall pick in 2022, right, by Pittsburgh. Then somehow gets to the Philadelphia Eagles in exchange for a 5th-round pick, right? And then wins a Super Bowl as the backup quarterback, Donnie. Then he gets traded to the Browns in the offseason, and now he gets traded to the Raiders. So tell me you can be as mediocre as you like and be a backup quarterback in the NFL and still make millions of dollars.
There you go. See, it's one of the best jobs because as a backup quarterback, you never want to really get into the game, but you're a very popular ops. Like, man, put Pickett in there. He can't be any worse. Yeah. And Pickett's like, you know what? Maybe I can. I should just sit on the sideline here and support the starting quarterback and make a couple $1 million a year, and away you go into your career. That can happen. But Kenny Pickett on the move from Cleveland over to the Vegas Raiders. Another guy on the move. How about Amari Cooper signing with the Raiders, the team that drafted him in 2015? Then he had some stints there, obviously with the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns. He was good with the Browns in 2023, 1,250 yards, but sort of fell off the map last year with the Browns and also the Buffalo Bills, looking for that career resurgence here. Once a very good wide receiver, but it's been a while since that's been the case. We'll see if he can regain that form. Or should I say, Joe Ranieri, do you think he can regain that form in Vegas?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is going to depend on who your quarterback is. And who's his quarterback in Vegas?
Do you know?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Because if Josh Allen can't make you look good and can't help you, boost your career and get back on track at 31 years old, Geno Smith is not going to be the guy to make you look good. So don't forget, quarterbacks make receivers. Receivers don't make quarterbacks.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Sometimes you can catch lightning in a bottle, but it's the same way like, hey, Odell Beckham's going to keep changing teams here. Sooner than later, you understand somebody is cooked. And also, most really good wide receivers, Joe, they're not signing August the 25th or 26th to get placed on a football team as the last piece of the puzzle to add as your wide receiver number one. That's the way it goes down. How about this one? Dan Skipper, who is known for doing this, Joe, if you can see the graphic. All right, I'm covered here, ref, sort of sneaking that one by. He was released as an offensive tackle. That was surprising. Now, does he find his way to Chicago automatically so we can get Ben Johnson to sort of do the same things he did in Detroit? But that was an odd one, early cut yesterday for him.
It is odd because, again, experienced linemen like that, Donnie, don't exactly, they don't fall in people's laps here. But nobody saw that coming. And I'm wondering if this might be injury related somewhere along the lines that we're not hearing about. But it'll be interesting to see exactly where he lands, because I don't think he'll be without a job or a team here very long.
No, I don't think he will be either. Offensive lineman, if you have, put it this way, Joe, if you're a tackle and you have a pulse in the NFL, you will be picked up by somebody because everybody needs offensive linemen. That is a correct statement here. How about Teddy Bridgewater, QB2 in Tampa? Guy just came off the freeway, drove on up from Miami, coaching high school football, said, hey, Tampa, you think I can help you out? Sure you can. Get back in here. I hope he doesn't wear like a jersey that's like number 40 or 80 or whatever the heck he was wearing in Detroit.
We just had this conversation, right? Just be a backup quarterback. It's better than being the sixth man on an NBA team.
Yeah.
Because they make trillions of dollars doing absolutely nothing but playing 6 minutes a night. The backup quarterback role, you can be high school coach 1 year, backup quarterback for the Tampa Bay Bucks the next year and making millions. Unreal.
By the way, keep it in Tampa. The NFL's heaviest player in history cut by Tampa. His name was Desmond Watson. Did you see any the highlights? His highlights were walking up and down the field as opposed to doing gassers, and that's how he was supposed to lose weight, Joe. How about that?
They really tried to get the guy. I mean, they really did. They put a lot of energy and effort trying to get this guy underweight and athletic enough to make a difference, but he just couldn't do it.
Let me understand this, too. You got to be kidding me. When you're that big, it should be so easy to lose weight in camp. They put you on a decent diet. You walk around the field in 85 to 90-degree temperatures. You lose 30 pounds in 3 weeks. He couldn't do that. Man, more NFL topics next. It's how we get down.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Here's the irony with this group. They're going all in a row, 27, 28, 29, and 30 at wide receiver. All of these guys have a huge fantasy upside. They're all being drafted as wide receiver threes, and I think all of them are going to outperform that ADP. Calvin Ridley could end up as a low-end 1, high-end 2. George Pickens, I think, is going to end up being a solid back-end wide receiver 2 at the end of the day.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. we've seen so many times, baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers are playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If the Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs, and right now at 18-17, they're one game ahead of the loss column versus Seattle and the Sparks. If they make the playoffs, you must, and I mean must, give their coach head coach of the year in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Cut down season. Donnie Rightside and Joe Ranieri. When we talk about football today, there'll be a lot of people. I mean, it's got to be over 1,000 people losing their job today, Joe. What'd you say? I mean, what do you have, like 30? Let me do some quick math here. Let's just say, I don't know, cut down day, you go from 80 or so players down to like 50. So let's just call it 30 to be kind. We'll go 30 times what? 32? Roughly 950 plus players today probably will be released in the NFL. There will be a bloodbath. Some of these guys will get picked up by other teams. Some will go right back to their teams on the practice squad because the rules changed on what you can do with the practice squad and also have a bigger practice squad than you had in the past. Those guys will be fine. But if we just take a look at the coaches, like cut down season for the coaches, it's no surprise. When we look at the coaches that we expect to be fired early on in the season, or at least odds-wise, it doesn't surprise me that comes up as Mike McDaniel as the favorite at a plus 200 price for the Miami Dolphins. That's a powder keg. Like, expectations for the Dolphins for me this year aren't high. But also, you have to understand this. It's not the first year of regime. You don't get to say, hey, you know what, Joe? Things didn't work out for us this year, but I know next year things will get better. That's not the case. So if we look at this list, McDaniel, Dable, Steichen, Stefanski, Canales, Gannon, Taylor, it does make sense that Mike McDaniel is the leader in the clubhouse right now to me.
Absolutely. I mean, it's dysfunction, Donnie. I mean, I hear it every day here in South Florida. The reports coming out is that this team lacks leadership in a big way in that locker room. And you know where it starts? Right with the head coach in Mike McDaniel. So, listen, some guys make great offensive coordinators, great defensive coordinators, don't make great head coaches. We've seen that for decades in the NFL. But there are a lot of guys on that list, him just being one of them, that it's make or break time here. And you better put up or shut up. I think the Giants are going to be better than some people think. And I think as long as Dable can show that, you know, him and Dart are on the same page, then I think he's pretty much safe. So I don't think there's any value in him. But who are we kidding? If Dallas wins 4 or 5 games this year, tell me they won't have a new head coach and a new everything coming in a year from now.
Yeah, like Mike Tomlin, 28-1, first head coach fired this season. Come on now. That's not going to be the case at that point. But if we are looking up top, like Brian Dable's a 4-1 price. He should have got fired last year. But again, that organization is so poorly run from top to bottom. Like, I don't think Dable gets fired even if they win one game. Like, hey, you know what? We have a future quarterback and a high draft pick. Let's get excited for things. Now, granted, I think that the Giants are going to win at least 5 games this year, but I don't think Dable's getting fired. Steichen's an interesting one, but also no longer, like, your owner passes away in Jim Irsay. Sometimes he could fly off the handle. Like, he told you how much he hated Jonathan Taylor, and then one day he's like, hey, man, love this guy. Signed him to a big deal. What, are you kidding me? Love this guy. Always wanted to be on this football team. You don't have that sort of, like, violent, like, swings that you would have. Stefanski, I don't think is going anywhere. Canales is an interesting one. But Mike McDaniel, to me, absolutely. If you look at that list, Joe, up and down, can a Todd Bowles get fired like mid-season? Like Raheem Morris, 18-1. There's one with a chance with expectations, right?
Not going to happen. Zach Taylor would be the guy that I would look at, because if the Bengals, who started,
no way,
you know, all their starters all preseason long because they want to get off to a good start. And I'll tell you right now, if the Bengals start again, 1-3, 1-4, 0-4, yeah, Zach Taylor is firmly going to be the leader in the odds board on that, because I think he, of all people, is on his last legs.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see this too, because I always get a kick out of this. And here's where I always jump in with Cincinnati is run so ridiculously opposite of everybody else. Marvin Lewis was a good coach, but I always remember the times with Marvin Lewis had a year left on his contract. The Bengals would never fire him, not because it'd be better for the organization, but they go, we have to pay Marvin Lewis an extra year and he's not going to be here. We got to get a coaching staff, which means you have to pay that coaching staff for a year and bring in your new coaching staff. So when I look here, Zach Taylor's contract with the Cincinnati Bengals runs through 2026. There's no way he's getting fired during the season here. Wait a second. If I fire him, that means I have to get an interim coach off the staff. And if that interim coach is making $300,000, I got to pay him $1 million to coach the rest of the season. Hey, Zach, even though we think right now, run the rest of the season. That's the way the Bengals think. Not what's best for the organization, what's best for the bottom line. So when I look and see Zach Taylor at 9-1, that should be 999-1 because they ain't never firing him with a year left on his contract to elevate somebody else and pay him like a head coach for the remaining parts of the season. That's madness at this point, Joe. But that's the NFL. That's the way it goes down. We'll see if Mike McDaniel makes it past the month of September at this point or things just go completely awry. Let's flip it over to college football. Why? It's week number 1. The big boys are coming out to play as we take a look at the odds market. Texas, the favorite to win a championship, Joe, plus 550. Right behind them, Georgia and Ohio State plus 650s. Penn State 7-1. Bama 9-1. Clemson 12-1. The usual suspects up at the top of the odds board, Joe.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, Donnie. We know the national champion is usually always somewhere within the, the top 5, top 6 here, somewhere in that ballpark. It's not like we're going to get a Cinderella and somebody that was all the way at the bottom, number 25, is somehow going to run the table and win a championship. So from a national championship standpoint, you got to figure, does Ohio State compete to go back-to-back? If not, and you think Texas starts the year off by going into their building and beating them, then they are absolutely the favorite and should be considered the favorite because, let's face it, they got a ton of returning starters. They've got the quarterback of the NFL future, supposedly the number 1 future pick. All is well in Texas, unless they lose a couple of games early on in the season, and then all hell will break loose, Donnie.
Focusing on the Alabama Crimson Tide, looking to bounce back this year. And you don't get too many bounce backs at Alabama. Coming off of what Nick Saban did for so long there, you might have a down season, if you will, but you better not have 2 down seasons. You'll be down and out for the count. You look at the Alabama this year to make the playoffs. Yes, it's a minus 172. It wouldn't be that high if there's only 4 teams or 6 teams to make that playoff, but we have 12. They'll probably get in, or at least the odds market says so. They do take on the Florida State Seminoles this weekend at Doak Campbell, and they're laying 13.5 points in that game, Joe, with a 50.5 total. Florida State looking to break back into college football after having that wonderful year just a few short years ago, and then throwing it all away because they didn't make the college football playoff because their quarterback, Jordan Travis, got hurt. Looking for that bounce back. Can they bounce back and beat a Bama team opening day, or is this much more of the choke and doke, and we just ain't that good this year, FSU?
I think the market tells you everything. Doak Campbell used to be one of the toughest places to play in all of college football. And the fact that Florida State is getting 2 touchdowns at home to start the season tells you everything you need to know. And that's not because this is the greatest Alabama team we've ever seen. No, it is not. And we are still getting 14 points at Doak Campbell. It tells you everything you need to know about the future of Florida State this year.
Yeah, we'll see who's at quarterback, too, because you have Ty Simpson having some props at multiple outlets here. We got no props for Florida State. We don't even know who the starting quarterback's going to be, how things are going to work out. We'll see how it plays out. But a 2-touchdown favorite opening up here for Alabama. Let's take a look at Georgia down in the SEC. They're favored by 39.5 points over Marshall with a total that's listed at 55.5. Georgia's playoff odds this year, Joe, a minus 240 to make the playoffs. So there's 2 SEC teams as heavy favorites to make the college football playoff. Georgia breaking in a quarterback that we saw some spots last year can improve this year. You know they got the talent, and they're favored by a 40 spot.
Listen, it's amazing to me how little press Georgia has been getting and talk. And, hey, listen, keep talking about Texas, keep talking about Ohio State, all good to go. Meanwhile, Georgia just re-ups. They've got a lot of pieces that they have had to replace over the last couple of seasons. But make no mistake about it, Georgia very much alive for the college football playoff and a national championship.
Between the hedges at Samford this weekend, taking on Marshall. We'll see if that turns into a bloodbath first quarter. Do they lay up in the second half? And away you go. But some teams have different routes, Joe. You get that big, titanic matchup like we're going to see from Ohio State and Texas to test you right out of the gate, or the coaches mostly like that slow roll. Like, give me a 40-point favorite. Give me it home. Let's work the kinks out. Then we'll get back to work in week number 2 after this dress rehearsal and the way it plays out. We're going to talk Major League Baseball in just a few moments, but still some hot topics in college football that we have to get across the board right here on the early line. The Bengals are listening to trade offers for perennial Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson, per me and Tom Pelissaro. It's unclear if the NFL sack leader will be playing elsewhere in 2025, and a trade will be a real challenge, but time will tell. You know what's not a real challenge? In the offseason, when he doesn't want to be here and you're trying to make a trade for him. Most people that say, okay, I have to sell a house or sell a car, let me put it out on the market, and I'll take the best deal that's available.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, they got some good young pitching, but they can never hit. They got boppers in that lineup. They got electric strikeout guys in the starting lineup for the pitching staff. Like, I feel like I'm rooting that team in, but also not just rooting them in. I think there's a legitimate chance they can take it down, Craig.
Yeah, I think so. Remember, I think I came on your show at the beginning of the season and took Detroit at the beginning of the season with you guys, and now I'm feeling like, hey, I got a shot.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. Now, obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
NFL win totals created because of Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. When Jimmy Johnson came into the NFL from the Miami Hurricanes, somebody asked him, hey, how many games do you think they're going to win? I want to bet it. And no one had ever done it before. Unbelievable, huh, Brady? And he said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to come up with a number. And he only came up for a number for the Cowboys. Then he said the phone started ringing.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Saturday is going to be something special here. We have a monstrous, titanic battle. Two quarterbacks looking to stake their claim in college football. Two storied programs, the Texas Longhorns on one side, the Ohio State Buckeyes on the other. And we are getting some line movement here across the sports landscape in this one here. Texas takes a look here. If I'm looking at the live lines, open up around 2.5 and still sitting around that 2.5 price point here as a favorite here on Saturday. So if we have Ohio State as the favorite, do you agree with that, Joe, going up against Texas?
I do. And home field alone. I mean, the shoe is possibly the toughest place to play in college football here. And no matter what you think, how many more times do we have to see Ohio State? I mean, yes, they won a national championship last year. But what you think and they got a lot of people they got to replace. But that is a factory that, make no mistake about it, much like Georgia, the simple fact that, yes, they won a championship and lost a lot of guys means nothing. Yep. You're going into the shoe, the hardest place to play in game one, with guys that are, they're ready for they've been thinking about this in Columbus all off season. I promise you, I agree with the money coming in on Ohio State. They'll be ready.
And by the way, looking at BetMGM, which is what that tweet came up with here, 6/24, which is June 24th, they opened their line at -3 as a favorite towards Ohio State. On a month later, on July 24th, that dropped to 2.5. Then on the 24th, which was 2 days ago, we dropped that to 1.5, and that stayed there until yesterday, late afternoon, where it went back up to 2.5 is where it sits today. So we are getting some buybacks and also some interesting moves here. Now, understand this. We'll see where this line factors in by the time we get to Saturday and the public starts to really weigh in. Like, I got to get involved in one of the best games of the season to see how that plays out. But it will be interesting to see how much home field advantage is going to matter. Arch Manning saying on one side, this is going to be a good one to watch out because somebody's going to get a leg up not only on the season and making the playoffs, Joe, but also maybe in the Heisman race as well. So many things to factor into week one in college football. Sometimes you just look and say, I have to trust the coaches. And what do we mean by that? Well, that means they get their guys prepared and they're ready to go week one. Look at the ATS, the best coaches against the spread in week number one. Bronco Mendenhall, 11-5. Jeff Monken, 10-5. James Franklin of Penn State, I always get a kick out of this. He's 9-5 because usually they play a tomato can, and there's nobody better at running up the score than James Franklin of the Penn State Nittany Lions. But other guys, maybe not. Tony Sanchez, 5-1. Josh Heupel, 5-1. Kalen DeBoer, 4-1. Charles Huff, by the way, Charles Huff, I don't even know who that is. Who does Charles Huff coach for? Now, can you fill me in, Joe? Or do you even know? I have no idea who that is.
What, isn't it Marshall? I have no idea. Who is it? It's one of those schools, isn't it?
Let me look.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Let's go. Charles Huff, coach.
Is it Marshall?
He is bowl record coach. Maybe you want to tell. I know he's a football coach, people. Can you tell me what coach he is? Charles Huff. Yeah. Southern Miss.
Oh, Southern Miss.
Yeah.
But he wasn't always at Southern Miss, though.
Come on.
Yeah, he wasn't always at Southern Miss. The Southern Miss has been terrible over the last couple of years. They've gone through a couple of coaches.
How about that? It's pretty impressive at that point right now. Now, by the way, handicapping prowess, Joe, do you look at that statistic like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to bet the coach because he's really good here week number one? Does that really enter into the equation for you?
No, absolutely not. Does listen, coaching matters in college, but, the idea that a team in game one is going to be what that team is in game 4 or 5 is crazy. A lot of you're just going to out talent those guys on that list. It's not that they out coached the guy on the other side, is they had more talent than the guy on the other side there. And usually that's all a scheduling situation where you're scheduling a team that has less talent than you do, and you did it 4 years ago.
Let's look at some big matchups this weekend, Joe. And by the way, here's some statistics for you. And I have to say this. I'm a handicapper that I don't care at all what happened in the past. I like to put that out there. Hey, last 6 times the Eagles went to play in Dallas, they lost. Oh, yeah? Well, just so happens that Dak Prescott snapped his leg. He's not there, and you have a backup quarterback. Should I still go on that same trend? Or, hey, 2 coaches, they're not even there 10 years ago. They don't even play in the same stadium. I don't care anything about that. But here's a statistic that we'll look at here. In the last 10 years in non-conference matchups of top 25 teams, the favorite has gone 49, 32, and 1, which is 61% in the regular season. 3 games that fit that billing this weekend, Joe. Ohio State, Texas, Clemson, LSU, and Notre Dame and Miami.
Yeah, all of them. Again, great opportunities for all of those teams to get started off on the right foot. But ultimately, it's going to have absolutely nothing to do with what those teams' trajectory is during the season. So I've seen Brian Kelly at LSU play a lot of games to start the season. I've also seen him throw up a lot. I don't think any less of him as a head coach because he doesn't win the first game of the season, because he's actually he's not scheduling cupcakes, right? He's actually going out there and scheduling games that matter at a conference. So a lot of those games with talent equals talent on both sides, it's who doesn't make the mistake. That's not coaching necessarily. That's just sometimes variance and the luck of the draw. So it's much easier to use coaching ability in week 4, 5, and 6 and beyond in conference than it is against a out of conference game 1 to start the season.
Your mind will play tricks on you people from week 1 into week 2. That team stinks. Wait a second. Week number 2, they look good. Or, oh, that team's great. Yeah. Wait a second. Week number 2, they stunk. Yeah. Wait till week number 3. You'll get a better vibe on these certainly seasons on the projections that we're going to have. But also understand this. Sometimes, Joe, like I want to be commissioner. I want to be president sometimes. I want to be head of the FCC. Why is that? Because we will never have streaming services that would be available to anybody to buy at any single time. Just give me a dish outside of my house. Just give me cable TV. Just give me rabbit ears on my TV. because streaming services are so damn hard to get into and so unreliable. And now we get this. Ari Mirov tweet yesterday. This is not good, he says. YouTube TV is in a carriage dispute with Fox. They've notified customers they have until Wednesday the 27th, which is tomorrow, to reach a deal or subscribers will lose access to Fox stations right before the NFL and college kickoff. You got to be kidding me, man.
Yeah, I got that notification. I got the email from YouTube TV yesterday about what's going on here with Fox. And we want to keep this conversation going. We want to keep our partnership with Fox. But here we go. Guess who loses, Donnie?
But out of it, streaming. You're horrible. Go away. Nope. Major League Baseball's up next. Joe and I, we ain't going anywhere. The Bengals are listening to trade offers for perennial Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson, per me, and Tom Pelissero. It's unclear if the NFL sack leader will be playing elsewhere in 2025, and a trade will be a real challenge, but time will tell. You know what's not a real challenge? In the offseason, when he doesn't want to be here and you're trying to make a trade for him. Most people that say, okay, I have to sell a house or sell a car, let me put it out on the market, and I'll take the best deal that's available.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, they get some good young pitching, but they can never hit. They got boppers in that lineup. They got electric strikeout guys in the starting lineup for the pitching staff. Like, I feel like I'm rooting that team in, but also not just rooting them in. I think there's a legitimate chance they can take it down, Craig.
Yeah, I think so. Remember, I think I came on your show at the beginning of the season and took Detroit at the beginning of the season with you guys, and now I'm feeling like, hey, I got a shot.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. Now, obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
NFL win totals created because of Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. When Jimmy Johnson came into the NFL from the Miami Hurricanes, somebody asked him, hey, how many games do you think they're going to win? I want to bet it. And no one had ever done it before. Unbelievable. Brady, and he said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to come up with a number. And he only came up for a number for the Cowboys. Then he said the phone started ringing.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Baseball heaven, as we like to call it. It's Donnie Rightside and it's Joe Ranieri. Sure, baseball heaven. Anytime we talk baseball, it's always fun. It's always enjoyable at this point. But we were led to believe over the years that the St. Louis Cardinals had the best fan base in sports, not only in baseball, but in the NFL, in hockey, and wherever you might go. They're always there for the team. They never boo. It's the reason why Scott Rowland in Philadelphia didn't like the Philadelphia Phillies fans, because they were a bad team. And if they felt that the team didn't perform, they booed. And I got to get out of here. And he coined the term again. Man, it's so nice going to baseball heaven where we're always getting cheers and supports. You ain't getting any more support. They won yesterday 7-6 over the Pirates in a comeback victory. But how about this? The lowest tickets sold in St. Louis all time. What happened to that fan base? Are they now apathetic to saying, if you're not going to put a winner on the field or try, why should we? Money is tight in this economy, Joe. We're not spending it on our Cardinals anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Donnie, that is the baseball city of all baseball cities, man. And it's also a fan base in that city that is not, they haven't had a below 500 season since 2000. I mean, this is a franchise, very proud fan base that expects baseball to be the number one priority in its town. And it is. It ain't the St. Louis Blues. We already know they don't like the Rams anymore. It is the Cardinals. So they're kind of a fish out of water. They're not used to having this conversation at this time of year going, you can't even beat the Pirates? Like, what have we become in St. Louis? So They'll be fine. Every team's got to rebuild. The Cardinals just, for some reason, Donnie, over the years, have managed to avoid having to do that.
Yeah, and they're similar to the Dodgers in a respect where it's like every year you'd be like, wait, who are these three guys that you're bringing up out of the minors that are actually going to kick ass at the Major League Baseball level? They're not getting those players anymore, and they're not signing big-name talent. So sometimes it does take a rebuild, but you never would think, like St. Louis, like we're just happy. We're Midwest, and we want to watch baseball, and it's a lot of fun. They're telling you with their dollars. They ain't having any fun out there in St. Louis because, by the way, all you want are expectations, Joe, entering into a season. Hey, I think we could be something this year. The vibes were so low in St. Louis, and the fans apparently not buying in at this time. You know who we are buying into right now? The Seattle Mariners with a legitimate chance to overtake the Houston Astros and win that AL West. They picked up a 9-6 victory over the Padres last night, which also saw the big dumper, Cal Raleigh, pop his 50th home run of the season as a catcher in a 15 total run game. Mariners get the dub. Padres go down, and they slip to second place.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because that is not necessarily a big-time hitter's ballpark, and yet the ball was flying out there last night against those pitchers. I mean, my goodness. Now, all of a sudden, we've got the Padres losing back-to-back games here. Seattle, very comfortable at home. Again, another one of these teams, Donnie, very good in Seattle. Not exactly the same team on the road. So that's going to be interesting down the stretch here to see home versus road splits with the Seattle Mariners.
I would like to see both of those teams that play. I want to see the Padres in the playoffs, and I want to see the Mariners in the playoffs. I think it'll be good for Major League Baseball. Keep the West Coast alive out there with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Speaking of the Dodgers, I thought the Reds might be a little bit lively last night, Joe. 7-0 victory for the Dodgers. You saw Emmett Sheehan has been struggling. 7 innings pitched, 2 hits allowed, no earned runs, 10 strikeouts, and 1 walk. He outduels Hunter Green. Big win for the Dodgers last night, and a bigger performance by Emmett Sheehan.
Yeah, not even close. I mean, you strike out 10 Reds. And, I mean, if you're the Reds and you got Hunter Green on the mound, you got to feel pretty good about your chances. But, nope, couldn't get it done. There are a lot of swinging and missing going on there. And the Dodgers went back to the long ball to get it done. And you know what? Now, all of a sudden, they've got some of their top-end guys on the way back as well. So this is going to be a rough weekend here for the Reds.
Meet the Mets, man. Back in it here. Could they be back against the Phillies? It started out yesterday 3-0. Christopher Sanchez was cruising and all of a sudden turned into a 13-3 loss for the Phillies, who did me dirty, Joe. Back-to-back days. Multiple runs early. Don't do a damn thing against a bullpen. 3 runs for the Phillies. After 3, they end up getting beat by 10 runs for the Mets. You don't want to wake the Mets up. I'm not saying the Mets are going to win this division, but you win that game yesterday and put them 8 games back, they don't even wake up. You might roll over to a sweep in this series. But now you see a little bit more fight in the Mets. Big win, and they were tacking on late.
Yeah, they were, and it's unfortunate. I'm like, the Phillies had a golden opportunity, I think, to kind of set the tone of this series. And don't forget, I mean, they got 6 more games coming up against one another here. So it's back against the wall for the Mets, but I thought they would have smelled blood in the water, Philadelphia, and came out with a better effort with Sanchez on the mound.
Oh, man, come on. Again, Joe, it's just I'm watching this double in my mind right now where Alec Boehm, and it's funny because when you're about to cash a ticket, everybody gets excited like a little kid. The fact that he held up at third base when I wanted to go to my phone, I'm like, yeah, I got a winner, and it was a loser. Oh, man. Now we're number 2 up next to the early line. Come on back.